Good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, members of the committee, honored guests. I have a very enviable position here this evening. Mike Walton, who was certainly one of my most favorite athletes, made me feel wonderful. And I want to thank him because any effort that I put in his career was certainly marked by what he's done with it and the success he's had in life. So thank you, Mike. I have this opportunity thanks to the presentation to Mr. Kane. But as it turned out, this was a great moment for me too. When you look back on your career and you have kids that you coached who actually say you've made or had an impact on them, that's a wonderful thing. And once again, thank you, Mike. I also had an enviable position with Mike many years ago, and he kind of denies it also. But at one point, we played in a flag football team. And there was reasonably good competition, and Mike played on another team, and we had a scrimmage. As a coach, you always wonder if you were playing against one of your kids, are they any good or not? So Mike, by this time, had already been an All-American, so it was reasonably good qualifications for the accolades that he had received. But we happened to have a scrimmage one Sunday morning at Memorial Boulevard, and he came down with his team, and we had our team. And we were pretty good, and they were pretty good. And lo and behold, there was Mike Walton. I said, this is my chance. I'm going to have an opportunity to play against one of my kids, someone who I had berated his entire career, hoping to inspire him to rise to the peaks. And certainly he had. But this was going to be my opportunity to actually play against one of my kids. Coaches don't have that opportunity, particularly in football, that often. So as the first play evolved, lo and behold, there was Mike, and he was the person I was going to have to block. So I wound up and I gave him my best shot. And he gave me, I'm pretty sure, hopefully it was his best shot, because he almost made me cry. He hurt me so badly. My eyes were spinning, my back was bent. But as all coaches do, you never let anyone know you're hurt. So for the rest of the game, I was hurt, and he would deny this, but he packed a wallop, and he was one hell of a football player, and I had an opportunity to play against him, so that's my claim to fame, that I played against Mike Walton, and he was as good as everybody said he was. Now, I'd like to carry on with the rest of the presentation and my remarks. First of all, I am not young Jim Kane. Young, unfortunately, is not an adjective that either of us deserve any longer. My name is Michael Morin. I have been a friend of the Kane family since I met young Jim in first grade at St. Joseph's School. Young Jim lives in Florida. Due to family commitment, he was unable to be here this evening to accept this award for his dad. I was honored when Jim called me and asked that I accept this award for the Kane family. What an honor. There were hundreds of people that could have accepted for Mr. Kane. And I was truly touched when Jim called me from Florida to ask me to do this. Mr. Kane was a man that I felt I fully knew. He was my friend's dad who picked us up and drove us to local activities. That's a pretty commendable thing. I began to do more research and found that Mr. Kane's legacy spread throughout our entire community. The Bristol Press described this honoree as follows: no citizen is more deeply devoted to building a better Bristol than Jim Kane. Jim was a graduate of St. Joseph's School and Bristol High School. He also attended Hillier College and the University of Connecticut. Football, basketball, softball, and bowling were his favorite sports. High school, boys club, industrial, and semi-professional teams listed his name on their rosters. Jim was a family man. He married the former Marjorie Schwartz, and they had two sons, Jim and Bill. Mr. Kane was a multi-year member of the Bristol Boys Club, also serving as president of the club's Older Members Association. Mr. Kane was a three-sport athlete at Bristol High, who later went on to play semi-professionally. He coached several successful women's industrial softball teams and captained a number of championship pistol teams while he was a member of the Bristol Police Department. In the community, Mr. Kane headed up many citywide Halloween celebrations, 8 soapbox derbies, and 6 Mum festival parades. He also served as employee division chairman for the Bristol Hospital Addition Drive. He was the city's first recruitment chairman for the Red Cross Bloodmobile and he chaired the Bristol Youth Council. He was given the Civil Service Award in 1950 by the Fraternal Order of Eagles and was feted at a testimonial in 1971 for his involvement in youth activities. For a number of us who grew up at the right time, Mr. Kane was an inspiration. He took time to be with us. He drove us to Holy Family Monastery in West Hartford for monthly meetings for many years. I'm sure he hoped that one of us would find a vocation there. After the meetings, though, he always treated us to a milkshake or some ice cream treat. Maybe that was our motivation. He was a good man. A citizen, upon hearing a summary of Mr. Kane's work on the Bristol Hospital Project Extend program, said, "How wonderful it would and could be if there were more Jim Kanes on the go for Bristol." In a conversation several years ago, Bob Montgomery was speaking to Mr. Kane. The men talked about Bob's goal of a Bristol sports museum. When Bob said to Mr. Kane that he would be a good candidate, he replied, "I really didn't do that much." The community of Bristol respectfully reserves the right to disagree. Thank you, Mr. Kane, and thank you all.